Well, let's find the difference. So f minus g is going to be equals to 5x plus 1 over x squared minus 9, and then leave some room here, minus parentheses 2x minus 4 over x squared minus 25. And the reason why I put the parentheses around 2x minus 4 because I got the minus side here. But the same thing, same least common denominator of the product of these two. So this, I had to multiply this by x squared minus 25, and this by x squared minus 25. And I had to multiply this denominator, x squared minus 25, by x squared minus 9. So that means I'm going to have one common denominator, x squared minus 9, and x squared minus 25. The one on top is going to be 5x plus 1 times x squared minus 25 minus 2x minus 4, and then x squared minus 9. And I'm not going to go ahead and FOIL it because you guys know how to FOIL. So I'm going to leave it as this. Now let's find the domain of the difference. Domain of f minus g. Same procedure. Take the denominator. Set it not equal to 0. But earlier, we found that if we take the denominator, same denominator, set it not equal to 0, we have the restrictions of x cannot be equal to plus or minus 3 and plus or minus 5. So the same excluded x values goes in here. X cannot be equal to plus or minus 3, and x cannot be equal to plus or minus 5. So the domain of the difference between f and g, after taking into consideration all of the restrictions of the last step, which is plus or minus 3, plus or minus 5, all of the restrictions of each of the previous steps, which is this one, x cannot be equal to plus or minus 3, x cannot be equal to plus or minus 5, as well as all of the restrictions in the domain of f and g individually. X cannot be plus 3 and minus 3, x cannot be plus 5 and minus 5. I know that I have to include all of the restrictions, which are just only plus or minus 3 and plus or minus 5. So the domain is going to be all real numbers except x cannot be equal to plus or minus 3 and plus or minus 5. So interval notation, well, it's going to be the same interval notation as this, okay? So I'm not going to sketch out the number line. It's going to be from negative infinity all the way to negative 5, union from negative 5 all the way to negative 3, and then union from negative 3 up to 3, union from 3 to 5, union, and then from 5 to positive infinity. All open intervals, by the way. So that's how we find the domain of the difference. Now let's find the domain of the product. The product is going to be equal to 5x plus 1 over x squared minus 9 times 2x minus 4 over x squared minus 25. Well, you see at this step right away, we know the restrictions are the same as above. X cannot be equal to plus or minus 3 and x cannot be equal to plus or minus 5. Right. So the next step is by multiplying the numerators and multiplying the denominators. So this one is going to be 5x plus 1 and 2x minus 4 over x squared minus 9 times x squared minus 25. And again, I am not going to FOIL this because you guys know how to do it. But guess what? The denominator right here is the same as the one above. So we know that the domain of f times g is going to be all real numbers except x cannot be equal to plus or minus 3 and plus or minus 5. And the same interval notation from negative infinity all the way to negative 5, open interval, union another open interval from negative 5 to negative 3, union another open interval from negative 3 to positive 3, union open interval from 3 to 5, and then union from 5 to positive infinity. Like that. Now what about on the number line? What is sketch on the number line? So let's just say we have negative 5 here, negative 3 here, 3, and 5. We are excluding all of these values based on this, right? So the domain of the function f is all real numbers except x cannot be equal to negative 3. So right there. And positive 3. So this is the domain of f, d sub f. And for the function g, the domain is all real numbers except x cannot be equal to negative 5. And x cannot be equal to positive 5. So that means the domain of the sum have to include all of the x values that both of the f and g domains have in common, which is all the one on the solid lines. And it also has to include all of the restrictions of both of the f and g functions. So it has to include all real numbers except negative 5, negative 3, positive 3, positive 5, and yeah. And of course the same thing for, the difference, like that. And the same thing for the product.